Today we're going to be creating this seamless 8-slide product launch carousel for a fictional specialty coffee brand that I made up called Vakna, which is Swedish for wake up. Now what I want to focus on in this video isn't carousel strategy. It's how you can easily make it flow visually and feel like one seamless design, rather than 8 separate images that just happen to be posted together. And Canva is the perfect tool for doing this. A quick apology first. I made a carousel tutorial a while back that's become one of my most watched videos. But looking back, I think I overcomplicated it. So this time we're keeping it more simple, but still really effective. We're starting in Canva with a static post size, 1080 pixels by 1440 pixels, which is Instagram's 3:4 portrait format. And there's 3 reasons we're doing this. We get more space to work with, it takes up more real estate in the feed or the scroll, and it matches the IG grid preview size, so you don't get any of that weird cropping. First, we're going to add some guides. If your rulers aren't showing, hit Shift and R, and then drag a guide from the ruler until it snaps to the page margins. It just protects some white space, and it keeps your content area consistent slide to slide, which is just one of those small things that makes a carousel feel intentional and a little more professional. Now before we touch anything else, I'm adding a whiteboard page before the first slide. And this is where I'm going to gather everything. Images, elements, and copy. Now if you're in my Canva OS program, you'll recognize this whiteboard. It's a simple carousel planning board that you can download inside the course. Now this is where, and I can't stress this enough, we do the preparation. It's so much faster to copy and paste images and text from within the same design than to jump between different apps and different windows. So many people skip this step, and it shows. It just takes so much longer to create content. So I've just made a simple running order of the content on here, so I know exactly how many pages I need, and then I've added the copy that I'm going to use on each page, so it's ready for me here. Now also for this brand, the color palette is pretty simple, but it's bold. So it's black and white, and then a grayish color from my brand palette. I've also got some product shots. I've got some stock coffee photos from Canva's library that I've put here, and I've also chosen 2 Canva fonts. For the main headlines, a brush font called New Wave, and Arvo as a lighter slab serif for the body text. And now we're going to pull it all together. First thing we're going to do is just to duplicate that page at the bottom so that we have enough pages for our carousel. And then we're going to start by changing the backgrounds. So the first page I know I want to make an impact, so that's going to be black. But then pages 2 and 3 are going to have the same grayish color background. They're going to act as like one scene. And I'm going to do that with other pages as well. So creating pages with the same color background lets me think about them as one scene. On the first page, I'm going to put in a really nice image of this coffee cup. Just resize it so that it works the way that I want to, leaving space for the headline. I'm going to copy that headline we prepared, change the color, and just resize it so that it stays within that zone that we've created, and then just space everything so it works for the way that I want it to look. Now the spoon in the bottom of that image is a bit distracting, so I'm going to click on the image, I'm going to click on Edit, and I'm going to click on Magic Eraser. And then I'm just going to paint over that spoon and click Erase, and it's just going to remove it from the image for me. Next, I'm just going to add in one of the taglines from the branding, which says "Wake up to coffee" at the bottom of that page. On the second page, I'm going to add in another one of our product images. I'm going to paste it onto the page, and I'm going to resize it. Then I'm going to click and drag it so that it snaps to the center of the image being on the edge of the page. And then I'm going to copy and paste that onto the third page, but shift the image to the left. Again, so that the center of it snaps to the edge of the page, which means that 50% of the image is on the one slide and 50% on the other. You can also click on it and then just use your arrow keys, making sure that you move it in the same direction, the same number of movements with your arrow keys. That way they will match up perfectly across the 2 pages. On the white page, I just want to keep this really clean, but I want to add a little bit of texture. So I'm going to go to the Elements library and search for paper overlay. I'm going to find one I like and just drag it on and then resize it so that it fits the whole page, taking the transparency down so it's just there in the background. Next, I'm going to look for an arch shape, and actually I'm looking for the outside of an arch shape, basically to create almost like a window effect on this page. So I found this one that I think works well. I'm going to turn it the other way around, and then I'm going to change it to match the color of the previous and end slides on either side of the white page. And then I'm just going to go to Edit and Shadow and add a little bit of a drop shadow, refining it so that it's just very blurred and very gentle. And then I'm going to resize this so that essentially it just appears on the left and right, which creates that illusion of crossing over with the previous slide and the slide after it because they have the same background color. For this page, I'm going to add another product image. So I've got this cup which has got the branding on. I'm just going to paste it on and then just position it and resize it. The next two slides again are going to be one scene. So I'm going to grab that other product image with somebody carrying these coffee cups, resize it, and again make sure that it's centered on the edge of the page. And that way, again, it flows from one to the other, creating a scene from those two pages. On the next page, I'm going to add another image of an actual coffee cup because I want something that again ties back to what this is creating, not just the features. And I'm going to resize that so that it gives me the space that I want just to put the logo somewhere and the awards. Now you'll notice it goes off the page here, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to paste it on the final page and move it so that it looks like it crosses over from one to the other, again creating this feeling of continuity, of flowing seamlessly from one page to the next. For the last page, I'm again going to put in a product image. And when I paste this on here, you'll see because the product image has the black packaging, it kind of disappears a bit. So I'm just going to resize it, but I'm going to add a rectangle to the page, and I'm then going to resize that. I'm going to change the color of that one so that it's that grayish color we've been using. And I'm also going to round the corners in keeping with what I've done on the rest of the pages. And of course, make sure that it's behind the product image. And then I can just adjust where that product image is. I want to add in a big headline here, so I'm just going to copy it from my first page. I'm going to add it and change the text just to say shop the launch, which of course is our call to action. And I'm going to add a very soft drop shadow on this, so it just stands out from both the background and that product image. Then at the bottom, we're going to create what's probably the simplest but most important part of this. We're going to create a call to action. So I'm going to add a rectangle, resize it so it's kind of the button size that I want, and then I'm going to round the corners so it's completely rounded and like a pill shape. I'm going to change the background to black, and I'm going to add a line in a white, and then just add a text box with my actual text call to action, which for this one, I have just said link in bio, but you could of course put your own domain in there, whatever works for you. I'm going to just resize it nice and big so it fits within that pill shape, and it really makes people draw attention to taking action. Now I'm going to go back to the earlier slides, and I'm going to put the text in that we've already gathered. Copying and pasting from the text on our whiteboard, I'm just going to paste it onto the page and then reformat it. So adjust the sizing, adjust the positioning, and of course you can make any edits that you want to the actual text itself to make it fit in, but it's so much easier copying and pasting rather than having to write everything from scratch at this point. I'd like to add in a couple more images that are kind of lifestyle images here, because we really want people to understand the product, not just the packaging. And so I'm going to add in a couple of frames, one on the top left, one on the bottom right on these two subsequent slides, and then I'm just going to grab some of the images that we gathered. I'm going to paste them onto the page and then just click and drag them into that frame. I want those images to stand out a bit and create a bit of depth. So in the Elements library, I'm going to search for a square shadow, and I'm just going to put that behind those image frames. So it creates this nice effect and a very soft shadow, taking the transparency down a bit and making sure, of course, that it's behind the image. And I'm going to do that for both of these frames. Now, if you try and drag something behind or over something and it snaps to the box, just hold your Control or Command key and it will allow you to overlay images without snapping into each other's boxes. Once again, I want to add some text to this page with the actual roast, and so I'm going to add in a white box, which is going to be a background for the text. And again, I'm going to round the corners just in keeping with everything else that we've done, so there's a consistency for this brand. Then I'm just going to make sure it's behind that image to again add a bit of depth, and copy and paste the text that I want over that white background. Next, on the page that just has the mug, we're just going to add in our tasting notes. So I'm typing those in because it's quick and easy, change to our Arvo font that we've chosen, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the actual tasting notes that we prepared from that whiteboard. For the text at the bottom, I want to add a frame around it or a border. And so I'm just going to add in a rectangle. I'm going to, again, change the color of it so that it's transparent, but I'm going to add a line around it in that grayish color. And of course, I'm going to then curve or round the corners so that it matches everything else. Above that for the list, I want to add in some little icons. And so I'm going to search for example, here, a chocolate bar when we're talking about dark chocolate. And I just want something that's a simple black and white graphic. So I'm going to find that in the Canva library, resize it, and put it next to the element itself. Do the same thing with fudge, find something very simple and just put that in. And then for the sugar, I actually want something that's kind of a stack or a pile of loose sugar granules. But when I search for that, I can't find anything in that kind of black and white. So I'm just going to use one that's a more of a detailed image that I find in the library here, and that works for me in terms of how it looks. I'm going to click on one of those other icons, go to Style, Copy Art Style, and then essentially paste that art style onto that sugar pile. And Canva will make it look more consistent with the other ones that we're using. And there we go, I can just resize it, and now it matches with the other ones that we have there. For the next two pages, we again are going to copy things from our whiteboard and paste them in, and reformat, position, and resize them so that they work the way we want to on these two pages, leaving lots of generous white space because we've got these big images that will flow as people scroll through the carousel. For one of the pages, I want to put these coffee beans, just a very obvious nod to the actual coffee itself. And again, I'm going to do a very similar thing, resizing it but positioning it on the center of the edge of the page. And I'm going to copy and paste that to the next page over the image so that it creates the sense of depth, but also something that joins the two pages from one to the other. On this page, I'm going to put in the actual Wagner logo, and I'm going to just position that center towards the top, leaving a bit of space underneath the glass where I can put in the awards that I wanted to list on this page. Lastly, I want to use this kind of pattern that comes from the packaging. So I'm going to paste it onto my second page, and I'm just going to tilt it and resize it so it kind of just runs off the top. It just adds a bit of interest, and it ties in nicely with the packaging itself. And I'm going to make sure it's behind the image, etc., to add that idea of depth. I'm actually going to put it on the last page as well, but for here I'm just going to rotate it, and I'm going to use it on the right-hand edge so that it makes an end point for the entire carousel. Now all we have to do is to go through the pages and check if there's any final touches. For the first page, I wanted to put on a little call out, so I'm going to search for a star shape. I'm going to change the color, and I'm going to add a text box with the text that I want to go over it, just using the brand font that we decided, and I'm going to just resize everything, change the line spacing to fit, and make sure that that call out is not covering up the image, but is also definitely visible on the bottom left here, so that again it promotes people to take note and pay attention. And that's pretty much it. Our slides now have a continuity. We have elements that cross from one to the other, but they're all individual separate slides, easy to work with and easy to manage. But when in a carousel, they work really well together and feel like they flow from one slide to the next without being just simple individual pages. Now previously, I showed you how to create a single image and split it after exporting. But that did cause a bit of confusion, so with this technique that we've just used here, we can just export these individual pages and everything is ready to go. So you just hit Share and Download, choose PNG or JPEG, select all the pages except the whiteboard, and hit download. Canva will package all of the 8 slides or pages into a single zip file, which you can then just open, and you've got 8 numbered images ready to go. All you have to do is upload them to your Instagram as images in a carousel. And of course, Instagram lets you drag to reorder, so just double check that the sequence is in the right order you want before you hit post. And that's our product launch carousel done and dusted. So there you have it, an 8-slide product launch carousel with seamless transitions between pages, engaging imagery, texture, depth, and detail to really bring the product to life. And the techniques aren't complicated, they just require a little bit of patience and planning ahead of time. Once you start thinking in scenes instead of designing each page in isolation, you start thinking about how they connect, how they flow from one to the other, which is so impactful for things like product carousels. And if you want an even quicker and easier way of creating carousels in Canva, I do have a new free resource coming out soon. So make sure that you're subscribed to my newsletter, because that's where I will announce when it's available to download. That's it for me. Have a great week, folks, and I will see you next week.